ISFPs are a confusing blend of traits, being at times disarmingly sweet and also emotionally fiery, capable of being bastions of the simple life and advocates of over-the-top artistry. ISFPs are individualistic to an extreme. They have an astonishingly subjective approach to life. Status, ambition, success are not universal metrics in the eyes of an ISFP. A billionaire, capitalistic tycoon, and a person who's content to spend their day walking their dog through nature, so long as those people in question are living life on their own terms, will be held as equals by ISFPs. ISFP's lead function of introverted feeling is shared by INFPs. But just from personal experience, the vibe I get from both types is very different. In the simplest sense, ISFPs seem less concerned with pondering ways to change the injustices of the world. Obviously, any person or any type can be concerned with those things. But with INFPs, they sometimes have the burdened with the world's problems vibe. Whereas ISFPs tend to live by example and let others follow if they want to. Live and let live is certainly a life philosophy that comes to mind for ISFPs. Any type with extroverted sensing in their top two functions enjoys moving through the world. It's therapeutic for them. If they stay static for too long, the walls start closing in. High SE users can be plagued by restlessness and boredom. But for an ISFP, simply doing activities that are meaningful and satisfying to them is a state that they'll happily exist in. I often hear extroverted intuition polar being associated with not being able to discern people's intentions. And at least in my observations, I've noticed this to be true. I think ISFPs are more susceptible to this than ISTPs. There is this lack of desire to approach life in a calculating way. It's not that they can't, and in fact, when they have some experience dealing with sneaky or underhanded people, they can be very good at spotting and dealing with those kinds of people. But unfortunately, it does often take some negative experiences first before they build that skill. Much like the ISTP, ISFPs can elevate their skills and operation of tools to the level of virtuosity. Their extroverted sensing affords them an innate ability to quickly understand how to physically operate things, whether that's a musical instrument, a paintbrush, a plane, or simply their own bodies. However, unlike the ISTP, who is using their introverted thinking to break down things and understand them in a logical way, the ISFP's FI is evaluating how they feel about a given thing. They want whatever they're doing to be authentic to them, for it to align with their true selves. The search for authenticity is kind of a preoccupation for both ISFPs and INFPs. So ISFPs are going to come across as more creatively expressive or artistic if they're interested in those fields, because the work they're creating is going to be a reflection of themselves and their values, rather than a display of skill or technique. ISFP's third slot, introverted intuition, is a function that is underrated. It wouldn't surprise me if an ISFP could actually mistype as an INTJ, since they like to satisfy and engage their NI whenever they can. They'll often have very impressive and accurate flashes of insight after taking in the SE data points. Their introverted intuition's insights have to kind of pass through extroverted sensing en route. So their conclusions, when they finally come to them, are often going to be very firmly rooted in reality. Extroverted thinking loves efficiency, effectiveness, structure, and standardization. Having extroverted thinking inferior basically can make you quite scattered in your organizational abilities, not setting up their environment to work smoothly for them. Just picture a person's laptop with hundreds upon hundreds of documents not arranged into folders. The individual, knowing that some point in the future they will almost certainly need to find this document, will leave it just floating around on their desktop with some obscure name. People have a very strange relationship to their inferior function. It's like they know they should be doing it. They just can't bring themselves to expend the effort actually doing it. types will often highly value that trait in other people. I'm not sure that there's a polite way to say this, but ISFPs can be very moody. This is possibly a product of a high FI, but they're weirdly non-judgmental of their emotional states. There aren't necessarily good and bad ways to feel, just different ways. And emotional variety is something they seem to enjoy quite a lot. Being an ISFP in a very TE-heavy society is definitely not an easy thing to navigate. But that combination of FI followed by SE is a very pure way to approach life. Because essentially it's, I'm going to do this activity because I enjoy it. So when an ISFP is healthy and in a good place in life, it's extremely inspiring to see. You find yourself watching them and thinking, oh wait, I forgot that I love to do that thing. Or that reminds me of something that I've stopped doing, that I'd like to rekindle and get back into. It seems to be an easily forgotten thing in modern day life. But if you can't live life on your own terms, and obligations and duties notwithstanding, if you can't spend a decent portion of your time doing things just because you like it, then what's the point?